And welcome back to another episode of Comics, etc., where we talk about comics news and news about comics.
And comics-related things.
Today we're going to be covering something more on the etc. side. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ba-bwam!
That's weird. I mean, it didn't come out till the next day, but...
Why not, right?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
So, the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to come out, Guardians of the Galaxy, directed by James Gunn. I think are in consensus in saying that it is probably easily one of the top 5 Marvel movies. For me, it might actually be top 2 Marvel movies out so far. I guess a little bit of backstory. The Guardians of the Galaxy, they are a specific group organized, and this isn't the original, I should say right away. This isn't the original version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. For those who are familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy lore, which neither of us particularly are, I didn't really do much reading of them. I Wikipedia'd War of Kings once, and Realm of Kings. They were started by Vance Astro, who is currently Justice in the universe, and he gathered together a bunch of people after being in like stasis for billions and billions of years. And then eventually this group made its way back to the present, and then they didn't exactly help form, but they worked alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy we're seeing in the movie. So these Guardians of the Galaxy, they're a much more recent creation. If you're interested actually in seeing more of this team working together, Brian Michael Bendis is currently writing a Guardians of the Galaxy series, specifically featuring these characters. And Rocket Raccoon series has recently started up as well. That's for the backstory. Now for the actual movie, I'm not particularly a comic book purist. Again, having not read much of the comics prior to Bendis' run, I'm a little bit less hard to please. But most movies, I feel like that. Comics are never changing art. You know, character backstories are always getting retconned. Events are getting retconned. So as long as a producer and a director go in and they make a film and they have a coherent, enjoyable vision, I'm happy camper. And I think the way that the characters were portrayed, fantastic for each of them. In the comics, I mean, Peter Quill, to start off with, is a little bit more serious, although the recent iteration of him is a little bit funnier. Gamora, you know, she's the most dangerous woman in the world. Drax is supposed to be Drax the Destroyer. All he does is destroy things when we talk. Groot, again, Josiah and Groot. And then Raccoon has always been kind of a rocket popular character. But everyone felt really well fleshed out. Like, I know a lot of the reviews I was reading complained about Gamora being a little too human and not as weapony. But, like, they all felt like fully realized people. Like, they could have been people from our world. It feels comic booky. I think that's really impressive because you make a comic book movie, you want to appease fans, but you're also trying to appease other people. What are your thoughts on that?
I have to agree that they did feel very humanized. They weren't as fleshed out as I probably hoped, but it's one of those things like, if we have Guardians of the Galaxy 2, oh, look at that, we have more time to flesh it out. Like,
this is confirmed for 2017, I think it is.
Oh, well, I guess we have.
Yeah,
We can do that. There we go. The characters, I liked them all. Like, people were complaining that, like, oh, there's only one female on the team, and it's just Gamora, and she just kind of doesn't really have a lot to do. I kind of, every time I saw her, I'm all like, this is like the wisest person on this team, because Rocket is just insane and just like wants to blow things up. Groot's a tree. Quill is too comedic, and like Drax is just thick. And there's like a moment in it when she's like, I can't believe we're doing this. Like, but I'm the smartest person on the ship. Drax, I liked him being like a huge, like burly dude with like a huge vocabulary, but not a lot of comprehension.
Like, Drax was probably for me the surprise star of the movie, because from all the trailers, they don't really give him much of a role. You see him beating things up, they call him like a murderer or whatever. You go into it, and then all of a sudden he's like hilarious, in a totally like nonchalant street man kind of way. And it's just like, I wasn't expecting that at all.
That is one thing I really like about this. Like, everyone got to be funny in very different ways too. Like, there's a lot of physical comedy that mainly they left the CGI guys, but like there was a lot of euphemisms that were like completely thrown like at characters. I like the stick up the butt one.
So a recurring theme during the movie, it's not spoiling too much, is that Peter, being from Earth, uses a lot of earthling expressions, terror expressions that no one gets. And I don't know, all of his references to 80s things that nobody else is catching because no one knows what it means. Like, I think that's one of the best things about having a character who, was a young boy in that, in the 80s, and then through some means ended up in space. He was really a kid when he went up there, so he still got that childlike mentality, kind of. So he just casually 80s pop culture, 80s pop culture, 80s pop culture.
The entire cast is an amazing ensemble, and even though they all kind of stood out, I think Chris Pratt as Star-Lord stood out the most to me.
Yeah.
And it is just like that opening sequence where it's during the credits, and you sit there like, this is not going to be like the other Marvel movies where there's some humor sprinkled in, but it's going to hit you with some hard action. It's like, this is going to have some decent action inside a comedy.
Yeah.
And it really did. All the side characters I thought were also enjoyable. Ronan, he is kind of the stereotypical like villain, but he really got the job done. And he was kind of a nice little placeholder, so it wasn't just straight up like Thanos for this.
Right. And side characters, like you said earlier, were just really great. Like Yondu, who was actually a little bit of an Easter egg. He was one of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know if that still stands in the movie, obviously, but that was kind of a throw-in. Yeah. Yondu's funny. John C. Reilly's character, hilarious. Just everyone got enough time to be really, really amusing, or really, really definitive. You got a real feel for their character, even with limited roles. So yeah. And I know a lot of people were complaining about him in comparison also to the villain from Thor 2, Malekith, where they're saying they both didn't really get fleshed out much in. My response to that is the movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. In this movie, you have to introduce 5 characters, you have to get them on your team, you have to get them to be friends, and then you have to get them to go against some sort of giant conflict.
That was one thing that one of my only nitpicks about the movie is the characters do go through a lot, but at one point they start talking about how they're friends and all that. That part just kind of happened. I would say I would be friends with these people if this happened. I would probably, fight with, alongside them. They're not my friends. These are just people. So, do we want to talk about, story and themes?
Yes.
We can't talk story, what happens frame by frame and storyline, but we can talk about, how we felt about the story. And the themes we can tackle, because... Well, if you didn't know, half of them have no families, and they're all in space, and one's a raccoon.
We gave away the whole plot. Don't even go see it.
Boom.
That was it.
Yeah, I just summed up the entire movie for you.
Spoiler alert.
They're friends. There you go.
There you go.
That's the end of the movie.
If we're going to talk about story, I think the very first thing I want to say, you said it already, was this was definitively not another Marvel movie.
No.
From that very beginning scene, you get that feeling. Oh, okay. And what's weird is they did, I would probably define it as a comedy if someone were to ask, but they did such a good job of merging genres. As opposed to, Iron Man, which is, he's funny occasionally, but, there's that deep-seated dark base to it. I'm dying. I'm an alcoholic. Blah, 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 blah. You definitely have that dark base, but, real life, they just kind of shift through, action, drama, what you think is romance, but actually isn't, and then humor. Humor is the glue that keeps the whole plot together. And it's just, again, they went ahead like that. They were we absolutely can make an action movie that is funny as all that. I kind of felt it's not a perfect analogy, but it kind of reminded me of Snatch a little bit.
Yes.
In that the characters were all really humorous despite having, sort of unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah.
And humor was mixed right into the violence they had to go along. And I remember thinking the whole time, this isn't what I would think of for a superhero movie. This isn't what I would think of for a sci-fi movie. Yeah. It kind of was a movie of its own.
Yeah, it was kind of blending a whole bunch of stuff that really, a lot of people really like into something that really worked very well.
Right, really unique.
Yeah, it was good. They touch on a lot of, deeper, at least in my opinion, deeper themes than a lot of the other Marvel's movies do. Lost is always in there because, it's a superhero movie.
Right, you don't become a superhero with that.
No, you have to lose something. You can't just be a good person.
Sadness. No one does that.
Can't do that.
It doesn't happen.
But they also deal with, purpose, which I thought was really interesting. No one really asks that in these movies. It's all oh, I lost everything, but now I have to be the good guy. One of them just, one of the characters seriously just debates, existence in its entirety. It's Groot, because he has an entire monologue halfway through the movie, entirely in a British accent.
You're right, and it never felt heavy-handed. It wasn't oh, you should find purpose in life. It was just sometimes you lose purpose and you give yourself a new purpose, and you find out that maybe you've been misguided. Maybe you're not exactly doing what's best for you.
This movie opens up. Okay, going into this movie, if you're a person that cries, if you cry during the first part of Up, you're probably going to shed at least one tear at the beginning of this movie. It ups you. I'll say that. The movie is hilarious. It's action-packed. There's some heartfelt moments, but there's only like a few that hit the like very beginning.
I think there were 3.
But so yeah, like there's a couple points where it does kind of like irk at your heartstrings, but like be ready for that. There's points where you're gonna laugh a lot. You're gonna be like, whoa, intense action, and then there's a couple parts you're like, oh, didn't see that coming. Oh, yeah, here it is. It's coming.
Just gonna drink my own tears, so it's not realistic.
Nope, I'm not crying. I'm not crying. I'm crying.
But I think we've managed to skip over one of the most integral parts of the progression of the plot. Music! Now again, Star-Lord Peter Quill is an 80s kid. He comes with all the pop culture references, but he also comes with all of these just fantastic...
Yes.
And music is a part of his character.
Yes, that's one thing I really liked. His music is his music. Like, it plays throughout the entire like movie, but it does feel like this is Peter Quill's like soul you're kind of listening to.
Exactly. Well, the way I felt was like, in the Avengers film, whenever they showed each of the characters, the lighting effects, the scenery, everything like that mirrored their original movies. Mm-hmm. Whenever we had the music playing, you felt like this was Peter Quill's atmosphere. Like, this is how he lives. This is how he exists. And it didn't feel forced at all. Every time I was talking about it, I was like, that is Quill dealing with whatever's happening in life, And, I mean, it doesn't hurt. The music was amazing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And, like, they kind of touch on it in the, the trailer by using the,
yeah.
And then they show him with his headphones and everything. But, yeah, it is really much of a deeper meaning to him that they let on, and then you find out later why music is so important.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, oh no, I just had another moment.
That's another heartstring.
Oh no, I'll always be with you. And then the second one.
The Earth music, it kind of brings you into this universe. Because like in Star Wars, they don't have like Earth music.
Right.
Star Trek they kind of do, but it's like futuristic Earth music, or they're going for a retro feel. But this one is like you're light years away from Earth with like I'll just lean back on my ship and then go right back to Earth. It's like he's stuck out there. But you feel like you're comfortable there because Peter Quill's music is Earth. You are traveling with Earth.
I never thought about that. When they show his quarters in his ship too, the Milano, it's very, very children 80s-esque.
Yeah, it is.
Like he's got
trolls.
Yeah.
Troll dolls. Yes.
Yeah, it's you're right, very human-esque, and that's his home away from home, home away from Earth. Oh, I don't know if this necessarily needs to be said, but I'd like to say they use swearing very tastefully in the movie. Like, characters swear in real life. They swear a lot, and Rocket Raccoon is known for having a bit of a vulgarity thing, but like, whenever the characters threw in a swear word or whatever, it didn't feel like it was just for the sake of swearing.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like that was a natural human or alien reaction to things. Everything felt really natural. I mean, there were some elements of the story that were like purposely humorous, of course, humorous, but like, for the most part, again, like I said earlier, they just felt like people reacting to things.
That is one thing. This movie is PG-13. There's not a lot of movies I've watched that I think like, okay, this is supposed to be PG-13. It's just like, oh, there's a lot of violence, okay, blah, blah, blah. This one, I think, really is PG-13.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I had coworkers that were like, oh, my son really wants to see this. And she's like, oh, maybe, like, should he see it? And I'm like, okay, he's like, what, 10 now? Like, it's a really good movie. I love this movie, but he's 10 years old, man. Like, this is definitely PG-13.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's still, like you said, the profanity is tasteful. There are some points where the violence, I thought, was, like, not gratuitous, but, like, heavy. And, like, heavy for a good reason to show you, like, how violent.
Alright, so,
do you want to talk about things we didn't like about the movie?
I guess we should include a section of things we didn't like, just really quickly.
Oh, one thing I really did like. The fact that the Kree have been introduced.
Yeah! But I agree that it is nice that they're finally able to use intergalactic franchises.
Yes.
Because you get the feeling, they introduce the Nova Corps, they introduce the Kree, you get a feeling that they're really willing to invest and the space side of Marvel, and that's fantastic.
And now that we have the Kree, we may possibly, eventually, get a Captain Marvel movie.
Here's the other thing that I did like. I was very impressed that they didn't go the typical romance subplot.
Yes!
I was so happy when the movie ended, and that didn't happen, and I was like, yes! So tasteful. Good job, guys. Good job.
It also kind of makes Gamora a more valuable character in my mind.
Right, because she isn't just a prize.
Yeah, she's not like, oh, she's on the team. She's also someone's girlfriend. It's like, no, she's on the team. Boom. Yeah. She is part of the team. And as I said before, she's the smartest person we got in.
Right, not that there would be anything wrong with her being with someone else on the team, but they're establishing, I think, right away that her worth isn't as being someone's lady friend. It was as being a badass.
Yeah. One more thing I really liked about this movie, Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper's voice acting. I like very much, except whenever Vin Diesel talked, I just heard, "You stay, I go."
Okay, a good point. Apparently they only hire Vin Diesel to do animated movies, or do animated roles, when he's going to make you sad. Because Groot, despite only having Vin Diesel say 3 words over and over and over, getting grunt occasionally, was like one of the best characters.
Yeah.
Super amazing, adorable, like the conscience of the group, kind of like just fantastic.
I saw a lot more of Thanos than I kind of wanted. I love Thanos. Super pumped about him. But seeing him so much, I'm like, isn't he supposed to be like the big, bad guy of this universe? I'm seeing this dude a lot more than I need to in a movie that's not solely about him wrecking stuff. I know, it's a tiny nitpick, but it's really all I got. I really only got tiny nitpicks about the movie.
Oh, I guess maybe I do have less of a complaint and more of a question. Yondu mentions that he's the first Terran they picked up, or something like that. A lot of the other guys in the Ravagers look like Terrans.
Yeah, that's just one of those, Marvel and even DC does it. They're aliens. There's a whole bunch of them that, look outlandishly alien. And then there's a couple that just are humans. I guess it's just so that, audiences could relate to these people as the victims because they look human. Hey, you say that.
I know.
But the thing is, that could very well be...
Because, again, look at movies like The Avengers. They kill thousands of the Chitauri. Thousands of them. No one bats an eyelash. So, those were our thoughts on the movie. Again, we were both really enamored by it. Scoring! What would you give... Scale 1 to 10, lettering system, however you want to do it.
I will give this a Zeta out of 11 teen.
It's funny, I was thinking of giving it an S+ out of 10.
No, but in all seriousness, I think I'd give this a 9 out of 10. I'd give it a 10 out of 10, but I'd have to see it again to find more nitpicks. And if they're not big enough, then it could get my 10 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a straight 10 out of 10. 11 out of 10, 12 out of 10. For whatever it did wrong, it wasn't nearly wrong enough to mention, and did absolutely nothing to how fantastic the movie was. I feel like it had perfect characters, great pacing, it was memorable, it's quotable. It's one of Marvel's most solid movies so far. In my opinion, Winter Soldier only just barely beats it.
Please let us know what you thought of the movie, any nitpicks.
But yeah, see it, love it, don't love it, whatever, let us know. We're your homies. And as always, remember who you are and what you are.
Don't cause any trouble out there in that world.
And remember, ooh child, things are gonna get easier. I'm not 100% dick. What do you think of that? Well, I don't think anyone's 100% dick.
I don't know how excited he is, dude.
You know what I did, I said!